Bonjour tout le monde, merci d'être ici. Les conservateurs ont pour but de mettre le Canada d'abord, de travailler pour tous les Canadiens afin de rétablir un pays où tout le monde qui veut travailler peut avoir une maison d'épicerie abordable, des rues sécuritaires. Et ça prend aussi des emplois protégés contre les tarifs injustifiables outre-mer et en Amérique du Nord. C'est pour ça que dans le Parlement qui vient en automne, nous proposons des choses, des solutions. Oui, on va évidemment s'opposer aux politiques libérales qui ont gonflé le coût de la vie et permis la criminalité hors de contrôle, l'immigration sans limite, et j'en passe. Mais en même temps, on va aussi proposer des solutions afin de rendre le pouvoir d'achat plus puissant, d'avoir des rues plus sécuritaires, des frontières solides et un pays plus autosuffisant. Et sur le dernier, l'autosuffisance est plus important que jamais à cause de la guerre tarifaire que M. Carney est en train de perdre avec la Chine, les Américains et j'en passe. Et c'est pour ça que nous proposons des idées positives, comme la loi sur la souveraineté canadienne, qui va rendre le Canada le pays le plus vite et rapide pour approuver des mines, des pipelines, des ports, des projets forestiers et j'en passe. Ça va éliminer la taxe sur les gains en capital pour les réinvestissements ici au Canada afin de ramener le 500 milliards de dollars d'investissement que les libéraux ont expulsé de notre pays. Et j'invite M. Carney à travailler avec nous afin de mettre cette loi sur la souveraineté canadienne en place rapidement. Je veux qu'il vole mes idées, surtout quand c'est les bonnes idées qui vont favoriser les intérêts de tous les Canadiens. Et on va travailler avec lui. En fait, j'annonce aujourd'hui que nous sommes prêts à s'asseoir avec le bureau, des bureaux de chefs de tous les autres partis afin de commencer à rédiger une loi sur la souveraineté canadienne et l'adopter rapidement. Nous voulons que les bonnes idées soient adoptées en travaillant avec tout le monde. C'est pour ça que j'ai fait une offre à M. Carney de travailler avec lui et tous les autres partis afin d'obtenir un bon deal avec les Américains afin d'éliminer les tarifs et permettre le libre-échange. J'ai fait cette offre à plusieurs reprises directement à M. Carney comme mon porte-parole en matière, ma porte-parole en matière de commerce canado-américain. Shelby Cramp a aussi fait la même offre à son homologue. Malheureusement, les libéraux n'ont pas accepté notre offre, mais ça reste ouvert. On va travailler avec le gouvernement et tous les autres partis afin de rétablir la liberté de commerce entre nos deux pays et avec d'autres pays ailleurs au monde. On va faire le jugement, par contre, sur les décisions de M. Carney et sa performance 5 mois après qu'il a promis de négocier une victoire, de sortir les coudes et de gérer Donald Trump. C'est le temps de juger sa performance. Donc, on va le juger, pas sur mes standards. On va le juger sur ses propres mots, à lui. Donc, avant de faire ça, je suis heureux qu'après des semaines où M. Carney essayait d'avoir un appel avec le président Trump, le président a finalement accepté cet appel. C'est positif. On sait maintenant que M. Carney a fait plusieurs concessions, encore des concessions, pour éliminer les tarifs que M. Carney avait promis dans les élections, des concessions qui s'ajoutent à l'élimination de la taxe sur les technologies numériques et d'autres tarifs que M. Carney a enlevés. Donc, je m'attendais à entendre aujourd'hui des victoires pour le Canada, les victoires promises, que M. Carney aurait obtenu l'élimination des tarifs américains sur nos producteurs de l'acier, de l'aluminium, des autos, de bois d'œuvre. Mais, malheureusement, ce n'est pas le cas. M. Carney continue de faire des concessions sans aucun gain. Il montre une faiblesse extraordinaire. Ici, avec les Américains, mais aussi avec la Chine qui voit la faiblesse et ajoute encore plus de tarifs. Avec la Chine, M. Carney donne un prêt d'1 milliard de dollars à une dictature qui s'applique des tarifs contre nos fermiers et nos producteurs de pêche et de fruits de mer. Donc, encore, ce n'est pas mes standards. M. Carney a promis de sortir des coudes. Il les descend. Il a promis des représailles de dollar pour dollar. Il les élimine. Il a promis une entente avec le président Trump en juillet. C'est presque septembre, il n'y a pas de deal. Il a fait toutes ses promesses lui-même. Ce n'est pas moi qui a fait ses promesses, c'est lui. Donc, il brise les promesses. Il a dit que c'est la pire crise dans l'histoire de notre pays et maintenant, il accepte tous les tarifs que le président Trump garde en place. C'est en plus des autres promesses brisées. M. Carney a promis qu'il allait bâtir plus. Qu'est-ce qu'il a bâti? Ça fait 160 jours. Il n'y a pas une seule pipeline, projet de GNL, projet de nucléaire, projet d'hydroélectricité, même identifié ni approuvé. Il a promis de dépenser moins et investir plus. Les dépenses ont augmenté de 8 % depuis son arrivée au pouvoir et le déficit pourrait être 2 fois plus élevé sous M. Carney que sur M. Trudeau. Il est pire que Trudeau sur les dépenses. En même temps que les investissements au Canada ont chuté de 60 milliards de dollars, le Financial Times a dit que c'est le plus grand montant d'argent qui quitte notre pays dans l'histoire du pays dans une période de 5 mois. Donc, M. Carney dépense plus et investit moins. Et sur la construction de logements, il a dit vouloir doubler la construction de logements. Selon sa propre agence immobilière, la construction de logements va chuter de 13 % d'ici 2 ans. Donc, il bâtit moins. Il n'est même pas capable de bâtir son fameux bureau, sa fameuse bureaucratie de logement en 160 jours. Et on voit une crise dans le secteur de logement qui est de jamais vu, que les acheteurs ne peuvent pas acheter, des constructeurs ne peuvent pas construire et des vendeurs de logements ne peuvent pas vendre. Donc, c'est encore pire. La situation de logement, de l'immigration, le coût de la vie et des tarifs sont pires aujourd'hui que quand M. Carney a pris le pouvoir. En fait, les Américains ont doublé les tarifs sur le Canada depuis l'arrivée au pouvoir de M. Carney, avec tous ces fameux promesses. Donc, ça, c'est en plus de la chaos que M. Carney a laissé en place. Il a permis aux députés de retourner pour l'été, pour les vacances d'été, avec des crises en criminalité, en immigration, en logement, en coût de la vie, et j'en passe. Malgré les promesses brisées de M. Carney et les libéraux, malgré ces échecs monumentaux, les conservateurs sont là pour travailler avec tous les autres partis. Nous proposons des idées pour un pouvoir d'achat plus fort, des frontières plus solides, des rues plus sécuritaires et un pays plus autosuffisant. J'encourage M. Carney de travailler avec nous, adopter nos idées rapidement afin d'ouvrir notre économie pour les affaires, pour l'investissement, pour bâtir et pour devenir plus indépendant face aux Américains et aux autres pays. Nous sommes là toujours pour rétablir la promesse du Canada, pour tous nos jeunes de travailler fort, avoir une belle vie. Nous sommes là pour protéger nos travailleurs en acier, en aluminium, en auto, et j'en passe. Et on va travailler avec n'importe qui pour réaliser cet objectif. C'est ça, mettre le Canada d'abord. Thank you very much, everyone. It's great to be with you here today. And in English, I'll reiterate that our purpose is to put our country first, to defend our workers and their jobs, to ensure that they continue working and selling our world-renowned steel, aluminum, autos, lumber, and other products to the world. And we know that they have been under attack for a long time now. Our purpose also is to make this country affordable so our young people can buy homes, start families, and our seniors can afford both food and lodging and live out the dignified life that they deserve. We set the priorities for this fall session being to have stronger take-home pay with lower taxes and inflation. We want safer streets by locking up the criminals, secure borders with less immigration, and by ensuring those who do come to our country are not criminals or lawbreakers. And fourth, a sovereign Canada, a country that can stand on its own 2 feet, pay its own bills, and make its own decisions. And that's why, while we'll obviously hold the government to account and oppose liberal policies of high inflation, out-of-control immigration, crime, housing costs, and youth unemployment, we'll also propose positive ideas to lower the cost of living, make paychecks go further, make our streets safe, and secure our country's future. We've even proposed a very detailed bill, this Canadian Sovereignty Act, which would make Canada the fastest place in the world to get a pipe in the ground, to dig mines, harvest lumber, open ports, grow food, do all the things that a nation needs to do to stand on its own 2 feet. My message to Mr. Carney: steal this idea. Come steal it. I welcome you. Plunder it. I'll go into your office with my policy team and we'll hand it all over to you. You can even get the credit. You can draft it up. Let's pass it in September and let's get building. And we also continue to extend our hand to Prime Minister Carney to work together to get a good deal with the Americans. I promised that and I offered that to him multiple times directly. My Shadow Minister of Canada-U.S. Affairs has said the same thing to her counterpart. So far, no response. The Liberals seem to want to play partisan games and score political points rather than working with all parties to get a good deal for Canada. So my message to Mr. Carney: put partisanship aside and work with all parties to get an actual deal with the Americans that stands up for Canada's interest. We have to judge Mr. Carney by his performance, and not by the standards I set, by the ones that he set out for himself. So let's do that today. First, I was happy to hear that he got the President on the phone. I know that Mr. Carney has been trying to do that now for about a month, and today the President accepted his call. And the Prime Minister took the opportunity to make a series of very generous concessions to President Trump. And I was expecting that when the call was reported that we'd find that President Trump had given us something in return, that Mr. Carney, being the negotiator he promised he would be, that he would get something after giving something. But not so. Today we learn that it has been yet another capitulation and climb down by Mark Carney. His elbows have mysteriously gone missing. And this call follows on other concessions. He promised during the campaign he would have dollar-for-dollar retaliation. He pulled that back. He made concessions on the military while getting nothing in return. He pulled back on his digital services tax, a terrible tax, but you'd think he'd get something in return for it. Nothing. And today, he removed even almost all of the tariffs on the United States and got none lifted from Canada. This continues with the weakness that he's shown on the world stage, continuing ahead with a $1 billion loan to the dictatorship in Beijing to build ships for Canada, creating jobs for foreign workers in steel and shipbuilding, while that same regime hits our farmers and fish harvesters with increasingly high and unfair tariffs. Mr. Carney's capitulations would be laughable if they weren't so tragic. They will harm our farmers, our workers, our people. More importantly, from his point of view, they are a broken promise. They are exactly the opposite of what Mr. Carney ran on. His signature promise in the last election was that he was going to put elbows up, negotiate a win, and match American tariffs. Let's go through the list. He's not thrown one elbow since he took office, except at our own workers. He did not meet his promise of a July 21st deal with the Americans. Again, his promise, not mine. He did not, he's backed down while claiming that he would stand up, and he's gotten absolutely nothing in return. In fact, American tariffs are twice as high on Canada today as they were when Prime Minister Carney took office, promising to deploy his negotiating skills to get us a win. He promised he would have elbows up. He promised he could, quote, handle Trump, and that he would, quote, negotiate a win. Those are his promises, and he needs to be judged by his word. And this was not any promise, just any old promise on page 73 of his platform. It was the promise on which he ran his entire election campaign. And now he's abandoning it. So either he admits that he was wrong all along, or that he knowingly spread falsehoods to get elected. He needs to explain which of those two things it is. But it adds to a long list of broken promises. Remember, he was going to build more and at faster speeds than ever before? Well, you know, he's getting breathless media coverage because he's setting up a new office that will one day approve projects that may one day get built. 160 days in, and he's bragging that he's close to setting up a construction office of bureaucrats who don't swing hammers or operate heavy machinery, but sit in front of computer screens in Ottawa department buildings. And not one pipeline has been identified, not one LNG plant, not one nuclear plant, not one hydroelectricity dam, not one major project has been identified, let alone approved in the 160 days since he took office. And all of the anti-resource laws that will make them impossible to complete remain in place. On housing, he said he'd double home building. His housing agency says home building will drop by 13% over the next 2 years. And the housing crisis has tripled in its different directions. Under Trudeau, it was just that they were too expensive for anyone to buy. Now, it's too costly for builders to build, buyers to buy, or sellers to sell. An almost impossible triumvirate of failure in housing hell that only a Liberal Prime Minister could have accomplished. He said he would invest more and spend less. Well, look at the numbers. Spending is up 8% under Mr. Carney, and it looks like the deficit will be twice the one that Trudeau left behind. Though we don't know because Mr. Carney, the genius banker, still hasn't introduced a budget. And then there is the investment side, down $60 billion in what the Financial Times says the single biggest net outflow of investment in any 5-month period. That is Mr. Carney's track record on investment. He is spending more and investing less. Meanwhile, immigration numbers continue to be out of control. Liberals have lost track of 600 non-Canadian criminals who were supposed to have been deported. They're still on our streets. Crime is raging to such a point where people are now demanding the ability to defend themselves in their own homes because they know the law will not defend them. And rightly, Canadians believe that they need to defend themselves if an intruder who's probably out on bail for the 100th time under Liberal laws comes into the house, and frankly, they should have the right to defend themselves and their property against an intruder. But it is sad that we've come to a place where people feel the law will not protect them, and Mr. Carney has sent home Canadian MPs while crime, the cost of living, housing costs, immigration are all up, while elbows are down. That said, we're prepared to work with Mr. Carney and with anybody to put our country first, to tackle the cost of living. Our purpose is to unlock Canada's potential, make this a land of opportunity again, and we will prioritize stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders, a self-reliant Canada. And I say to Prime Minister Carney and to all the other party leaders, let's get to work in the fall. Let's tackle these problems for real because our country is worth fighting for and worth working together for. So let's get it done. Thank you.
Mr. Poilievre, would you have removed these retaliatory tariffs on the CUSMA compliant goods?
My approach would have been to negotiate from a position of strength. I would only have put in countermeasures that were sustainable and legally defensible. And I would have also ensured that by now, 160 days in, we'd have new markets, new projects to get our goods overseas so that we could negotiate a deal. And you asked me whether I would have, my goal would be to have tariffs gone on both sides of the border. I would have gone to the President respectfully and said, you remove your tariffs, we remove ours, let's sign an agreement that restores the great free trading relationship that our two countries had for decades and that worked for both nations. That is what Prime Minister Carney promised during the election, and that's what I would have delivered in his place.
Do you agree with the Prime Minister that despite the tariffs in place, Canada still has the least punitive trade arrangement with the United States of any major economy? And if not, can you think of a country or a bloc that has a better deal right now than Canada?
Well, most countries have a better deal in reality because none of them have the same dependency on the American economy we do. So there's two parts to this. One, any access we have today is the result of Brian Mulroney. Let's be clear. There's not a single tariff-free item that's going to the United States that was not negotiated by Prime Minister Mulroney. I challenge anyone to go back and find an item that goes in tariff-free that was not originally included in FDA or NAFTA under Mulroney. So none of that is due to Mark Carney. I'm sorry, I know he likes to take credit for a lot of things. He can't take credit for what a Prime Minister did in the 1980s and 90s. The second, any small tariff on Canada, any amount, by the United States, has an outsized effect because it represents 20% of our economy is export, more than 20% of our economy is exports to the United States, which means that we are the single most dependent country on the United States, and any tariff at all will have more impact on our country than it does anywhere in the world. We should have tariff-free access to the United States as we had before. And that's what Mr. Carney promised when he said he would negotiate a win by July 21st. He should have delivered on his promise.
Mr. Poilievre, on steel and aluminum, the federal government has not yet matched the tariff rate on steel and aluminum. The U.S. is currently at 50%, while ours is at 25%. Would you like to see them raise that up to 50% and match the U.S.'s rate on steel and aluminum?
Well, my preference would be to see the Americans lower their tariffs so that we can reinstate free trade. But one tariff that I will be cutting for sure, and I will push the Prime Minister to cut for sure, on our steel and aluminum, is the industrial carbon tax. I find it astonishing. Well, I understand Donald Trump's priority is to take Canadian jobs and move them to the United States. He's been very blunt about that. What I don't understand is why Prime Minister Carney would help him do it with an industrial carbon tax on our steel and aluminum products. So our workers are not only hit with Trump tariffs, but with Carney's carbon tax. We need to get rid of the industrial carbon tax, and if Mark Carney will adopt the Canadian Sovereignty Act, then that will include the total elimination of the entire carbon tax, including for steel and aluminum.
Monsieur Poilievre,
Oui.
M. Trump a réagi et il a l'air d'aimer Mark Carney et sa façon de faire. Est-ce que ça, c'est une forme de garantie qui peut finir par arriver à une entente?
On sait que M. Trump est heureux. Il est heureux parce que M. Carney fait tout ce que l'administration républicaine veut. Il fait toutes sortes de concessions. Évidemment, M. Carney, chaque fois que M. Trump demande quelque chose, M. Carney dit un grand oui, contrairement à ce qu'il a promis pendant la campagne électorale. Et ce n'est pas juste des concessions que M. Carney fait envers M. Trump, c'est aussi les politiques anti-business et anti-développement qui expulsent des dizaines de milliards de dollars d'investissement vers les États-Unis. On sait pourquoi M. Trump voulait avoir M. Carney au pouvoir. C'est parce que ça remplit l'objectif de voler nos emplois, notre investissement et la force économique vers les États-Unis. No, just...
You mentioned the incident. You just mentioned the incident in Lindsay, Ontario, and you posted about it on social media earlier this week. Do you think Canada needs a castle law or a castle doctrine on the books to shield homeowners from facing criminal prosecution, like the gentleman in Lindsay, Ontario, for defending their loved ones and properties during a break-in.
The law needs to be clear that if someone comes into your house uninvited to steal your property or harm your family, you need to be able to do whatever is necessary to stop them. And my message to the criminal thugs who are invading the homes of Canadians in unprecedented numbers because of Liberal laws is that you should be in serious danger if you go into someone's house illegally and try to harm them. If you don't want to be harmed, then don't invade someone's house and don't threaten their security. The law needs to be very clear that people have the right to defend their homes and their families against lawbreakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think that Trump actually wants a free trade relationship?
OK, oui. Merci. La loi doit être claire que tous les Canadiens devraient pouvoir défendre leur maison contre les criminels qui entrent pour voler ou pour nuire aux familles. Et on doit faire en sorte que la loi est explicite, que tous les Canadiens ont le droit de défendre leur maison contre les criminels. Et je trouve ça triste qu'après 10 ans des libéraux, que les criminels pensent pouvoir envahir les maisons et on traite les innocents comme les criminels. C'est pas juste, les Canadiens devraient pouvoir défendre leur propriété et leur famille. Merci beaucoup.
Do you plan